I want to thank you all for coming to this Friday session of the ACA Small Business Boot Camp and Resource Collective, and preparing small business to return stronger than ever. We've got a great session today on marketing. We're really excited about it. But first, we want to just thank all of our community partners that are helping us out and providing content and support for the boot camp. We couldn't do this without them. As a reminder, the ACA Boot Camp and Resource Collective is designed to help prepare small businesses of less than 20 employees and with the COVID crisis and emerge stronger than ever. So we like the return stronger phrase. It's a statewide initiative supported by all the community partners. It's on the previous slide. And it is a daily boot camp. And we also share the resource collectives. As we mentioned previously, originally we were going to just go through May with the boot camp, but because of the strong support from our community partners and the great content we have available, we are going to continue through June. We have a number of awesome future webinars planned that are really exciting to see. So it's going to be a great June as well. So this week's topics, if you missed some and want to go back, next week's. Monday, we have a Target. They're going to provide some safe guidelines for retailers, and they developed some tools that they shared with us that we were all excited about for small businesses. So you'll be able to take advantage of these tools that they developed in order to help small businesses return safely. On Tuesday, we're going to have some more navigating of the PPP forgiveness. There's new guidance. We've got a great panel that'll be together, and it's going to be some targeted question and answers as well to try to answer all those questions everyone has about the PPP forgiveness. Now we're going to have some great virtual sales training by Sandler on Wednesday. Thursday, we'll continue with safety in the workplace from the National Safety Council. And then Friday will be another marketing session to help marketing return stronger. So some key updates, as we mentioned all this week, in checking the SBA reports every day, the PPP program still has well over $100 billion remaining as of yesterday afternoon. I'm excited about that. So again, if you are still waiting for a PPP loan, you haven't heard from your bank, or they're dragging their feet, there are a lot of other banks in Arizona that can process that quickly and are willing to do so. Please reach out to us and we can help guide you to some of those that have personally reached out and told us that they can move quickly on them. So far in Arizona's received over $9 billion worth of funding from both the PPP and the EIDL. Arizona small businesses have a nice injection of $9 billion in those loans. So it's exciting to hear. So we also want to remind everybody to the ACA's programs, our small business programs, to help navigate through the SBA and work with the SBDCs, the Small Business Development Centers. We have local banking contacts, and we share the latest developments regarding small businesses. Our workforce division has some great programs for both employers and employees, some training opportunities in helping employers such as yourself find workforce for your businesses. And then if you're a manufacturer, our Manufacturing Extension Partnership Program is outstanding, one of the top in the nation, and they can help you develop and grow your business as well. So we just want to remind everybody of the States Arizona Together website for information on COVID-19 and resources that are available throughout the state. This is a sample of the different resources we have available, and this slide is available on the materials at the end of each session, but these are links that we have to the different guides and resources that are available for various types of businesses throughout the state. You can see on there, there's restaurant guides, and there's guides for barbershops and cosmetologists, a guide to return to the workplace. So there's various different guides that will help you be successful as you return to work. Also, we want to encourage you to stay informed through our website, azcommerce.com/COVID-19. We update that every day with the newest information that we receive. So today's speaker we're excited to have is Jeffri-Lynn Campbell. She's a CEO and brand architect for Blaze Experts. It's a branding agency. I'll leave the bio out there so you can read through it faster than I can read it. But we are excited to hear her expertise and talk to us about branding and the things she's learned as she's been working with her clients through the pandemic so far. So Jeffri, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Let me see. You know, people don't hire me because of my technological prowess. So give me a shake here to make sure that we're golden. Are you seeing me? Are we good? Yeah. Okay. I am Jeffri-Lynn Campbell. I'm so happy to be here with you guys today. I've been doing branding since I was 8 when I first designed my dad's logo for one of his companies. He was a serial entrepreneur. But I thank you so much for being here today. And I think part of the confusion that comes around brand for small businesses is, what is it anyway? I think more often than not, I introduce myself and say, hey, we're a branding agency. And people are like, ooh, do you do cattle? Do you brand cattle? And no, we don't. But if you ask Alexa or Siri or the Google, what is brand? It will tell you it's a particular type or kind of something. It's promotion for a particular product. It's a means of advertising. It's distinctive wording or design. It's a particular habit, trait, or quality. And I'm here to tell you, it's your identity as a business. It's your reputation. When you hear marketers talk about differentiation, I think brand goes beyond that, because it's more about distinction than it is differentiation. So your brand platform should include not only a logo or mark or visual identity, because people don't buy you because you have a cute logo. They work with you because of how you communicate your message. So it includes your style, your personality, your voice, your tone, your language. And I think the part businesses most often overlook is the most important part, the experience. You spend all this money on your physical plant and facilities, on your concept, on your website, on your digital design, your advertising even. But then you forget to infuse the brand into every interaction in your company to take it from transactional to experiential. And that's the part of brand that we're talking about today. I want you to bring it to life, visually, verbally, experientially, and really make it sing. So when you look at your brand, you want to look at your consistency meter. Start where you are. If you are Disney, Ritz-Carlton, Apple, you're way up there in the upper right-hand quadrant. That strong brand, consistent messaging, all of that. The rest of us, especially in small business, because we don't have the resources to just put out there for awareness, the rest of us are somewhere else in those 4 quadrants, striving for strong brand and consistent messaging. It's all about communication. It includes your culture. I want you to think of your 360-degree brand like a book. People might come in because of your cover, but it's what's inside that book that generates the buzz. That's what gets people talking about it. That's what makes people recommend you. That's what makes people buy copies for their friends. You get the drift. The same is true for your brand. In solid brand strategy, first we develop what it's going to feel like and look like, and then we bring it to life on site. When we need to ensure our culture internally with our team, or even if we're a solopreneur, it's just us, when we need to ensure those ring true and align with our mission, vision, and values, it's the experience from greeting to goodbye that people have with us that makes all the difference. Isn't it what you say and do that makes people feel a certain way? And the things you say and do represent your brand on the inside as much as they attract your ideal customer, your dream customer, your rock star in the first place, because that's who you do your best work with and for. Now, we're not saying you have to meet Ritz-Carlton service standards. That may not be your brand, but it has to match and exceed the expectations of your customers every time, all the time, with every interaction. So how do you start? Well, first, you look at what marketing does, what it's for. You look at the 4 I's that begin marketing, that begin with your brand. First of all, you're going to have the image. You establish that with that look, feel, messaging, all of the rest of that. Then you look at how you influence. Because what I hear most often from small businesses is that you advertise and you market and you do your brand to get your name out there to generate awareness. And we really don't have the resources to do that. So it's more about bringing customers in here than it is getting your name out there. So first, yes, you work on image. Secondly, you cast the net, increasing your area of influence among your potential audience, your referral network, your clients, your competition. It attracts, it repels, it brings the people you like to you, and it takes the other ones to self-select out. Then we go into impact. What is your impact? From greeting to goodbye, your brand has impact. It affects growing and ongoing opinions of you and your business, your reputation. It happens through experience, whether positive or negative, during the customer journey. And we call this your 360-degree brand engagement. It's just as important for your style to be evident during this activity as it is during the interactivity that you have on site. We don't want an outward-facing style and brand that is Louis Vuitton with an internal style that's Jake from State Farm in his khakis. We want it to match all the way. And finally, your income. Positive perception, interaction, opinion, feedback, reviews, those all build new and repeat business, which is really what we're after. It's the ultimate win for the work we do. Now, I want to backtrack for a second. I think I got my slides out of order here, so I'm going to go back. I want to talk about the 5 senses, because when you go from that impact, influence, income into how you want that experience to happen, you have to consider those senses. What do you want people to see when they work with you? What do you want them to hear? What do you want them to smell? And I don't mean literally what do you want them to smell, but you could think conceptually. If it's difficult or it doesn't apply, you can kind of skip that one. What do you want them to taste? Now, if you're a restaurant or a food manufacturer, you know exactly what that is. But if not, if you are a service organization or a different kind of business that really doesn't have that tangible feel to it, think how you want. Are you salty? Are you sweet? Are you bitter? Are you spicy? And for touch, if you aren't a massage therapist or an esthetician, think in terms of feelings. Because just like Maya Angelou said, people remember, they don't remember what you did or what you said, but they remember how you made them feel, and that's what brings them back. When you want to think about how people feel, don't just think, oh, I want them to be happy. This is where words really do matter, because words are awesome. So think semantics. What kind of happy? Do you want people to be relieved? Do you want people to be at ease? Do you want people to be ecstatic, joyful, peaceful, euphoric, giddy? Again, go back to that 4 quadrants. And if you were in that upper right quadrant, you were Disney, you were Apple. How do you want people to feel? And never forget that 6th sense, intuition. Because if you have used logic, if you have used emotion, Your intuition, your gut, often comes down to the decision-making part, and you're not often wrong if your gut isn't based upon a belief that may not be true, but it really is that feeling in the pit of your stomach. It's emotion that makes people buy you, as you know, and they just justify it with intellect. So now going back to where I was, so once you have impact, which will ultimately drive revenue, income as it were, then that's just the side benefit. If you're really focused on the impact, the income comes after that. So we always want to look at impact when we're thinking about the brand from greeting to goodbye. So what does impact do? It improves your customer experience, your retention, your ratings. That makes people recommend and return. It ensures market relevance, competitive advantage. It improves ownership return and asset value. Ultimately, your exit strategy. It decreases errors and costs associated with them. It improves team member retention and engagement. And we all know sometimes it's hard to find the right people to be pulling through your brand on site. It makes recruitment easier. It increases productivity. It creates a higher per sale average. Culture is the heart and soul of your organization. It brings your vision, mission, and values to life, and your unique brand promise and essence becomes part of a choreographed service experience. It's operational integration. It's an infusion of a brand into every interaction that makes it all happen. I've seen this happen in hotels, you guys, because you have no idea how hard it is to make somebody who cleans toilets for a living really get involved and engaged in their work. But if you have done onboarding for your brand so that somebody creates their own way and says, okay, this is the 27 things I have to do to clean a room every day, but how can I make that experience different for my customer, but make it infused with brand, then it can make all of the difference. One example we used in Sedona was a housekeeping group that were working on brand and how they could do that surprise and delight thing. And according to their own brand, they figured out, okay, somebody comes in from hiking. Instead of just moving their shoes over and putting them back in the closet when we're making up the room for them when they're out at dinner, what if we took those shoes covered in dust and dirt and mud and took those and had them cleaned and brushed them off and brushed all the clothes off and then set them back on plastic? If you came back from your dinner and were like, oh my gosh, my hiking boots are all clean and everything, this is amazing. It's just above and beyond. We can all do that in our service experience. That's just one example from one industry. So think how you can do that, because what do you want to be known for? If you brainstorm, if you sit down with your own staff or your own leadership and you say, what are our yes words? What do we want somebody leaving the goodbye, that part of ending a transaction with us? What do we want them to go yes about? If you can list those, that establishes the brand pillars you need. Think ideation or innovation, or responsibility, or skill, or power, or respect, inventive, fueled by passion. Using all those 5 senses and intuition, you can figure out exactly what you want to be known for and choreograph your service experience according to that. Then, if you happen to come up with things that aren't necessarily in line with your original brand concept, your essence, but it feels right and it's how you want your customers to feel, you can always go back and evolve your look, your language, so that it's a consistent experience from greeting to goodbye. So when you look at your own business, how can you elevate and create that how you made them feel memory in each area? So they keep coming back to you and they keep sending more business your way. Well, we all know that first signature touch point, your brand usually includes your logo, your messaging, social media, signage, menu, decor, a table setting, collateral materials, email signatures, business cards, all of those pieces, pitch decks for those of you that are individual service providers, fleet, uniforms, dress code, all of those pieces make up that initial part of your brand. That's the greeting. That's before the greeting, before they even knew you exist. That awareness piece that we were talking about before we get into influence and income. That generates that initial interest. Then the greeting. So greetings in hotels, to keep with my example, they have standards. They require you to say, ladies and gentlemen, and things like that. When you are a small business, you have so much more fluidity, so much more flexibility that you can have your own staff infuse their own personality into those greetings so that it's not canned, it's not a credo on the wall, it's them infusing your brand into their own lives and themselves into the brand itself. We have so much more freedom. So if we just direct voice, tone, language and allow them to come up with the way they want to say it, with a stamp of approval, of course, then it generally adds to a more authentic experience. And everybody knows genuine is the thing right now. So then they have an arrival or the first meeting. Go beyond that whole punctuality and promptness. Go beyond that. What can you do that makes you stand apart? Some retail places meet or greet you at the door. Some offer a warm chocolate chip cookie. Some might present you with a free gift. What can your warm fuzzy be? Think about that in terms of the 5 senses, or 6, and make yours unique. Then you move on to your brand pillars, the foundation of your brand. These are not your values, but because your values tend to be your behaviors, how you expect people to behave in your company. But they're closely aligned with them to bring your brand to life. The pillars are your cornerstones. They're your litmus test. They allow all of your team members to individually express the brand without having a checklist, because more often than not, we have enough of those on how to just do the job. Ideally, you would have 3 to 4 of these. Maybe you want to focus on being colorful, eclectic, or multicultural. But maybe it's completely the other side. We're focused on being local, storytelling, handcrafted, thoughtful. Whatever your brand pillars end up being, ensure they are evident of the overall experience. Make sure you can infuse them into a transaction. If my pillar is storytelling and I'm a restaurant, I want to make sure that when I have my servers come up to the table or greet someone, they have a story to tell. Maybe that's just about how we locally, sourced our vegetables. Maybe it's a story about the building we're in. Maybe it's a history lesson on our town. But whatever that looks like, make sure you can infuse it into the next piece, which is the interaction and delivery. Those are your service standards. Whether you explain the experience or menu, ask people if it's the first time they've been in. For a personal trainer, maybe it's a brisk walk warm-up with every single client every time to talk about what's going on in their life and establish connection before you make them hate you. For a life coach, maybe it's sharing a moment about what has transpired since the last time you talked, or what's the best thing that happened and the worst. You can think through these interactions and look at how you can change your interaction and delivery. Now, what about closing the sale and payment? That is sometimes where we get awkward, especially if there isn't a tangible product changing hands. Think insurance policy or a year of coaching or a subscription to something. Having a standard around the transaction makes it experiential instead. It can decrease buyer remorse, and it can be done in simple or really complex ways. It could be a happy dance that you do. It can be just that one-to-one connection, human connection, that right now, more than ever, we're really hungering for. What are some ways you could change your payment or transaction into a good experience that people feel good about buying in an environment instead of being sold? And what about after that sale and delivery is done? What then? The departure, the welcome back, the thank you for business. How do you continue the relationship? How do you nurture it? Birthday cards might be something you send as a bakery a month ahead of time so they remember to buy a cake from you. What makes sense for your business to get people to return? So then what's next? If you go to any event, you will always hear, oh, we need to do this elevator speech. I'm not a big fan of them, but it does help you figure out your experiential brand explanation. I am Jeffri-Lynn with Blaze. We create brands that care more about impact than they do income. I begin my brand engagement with a signature touch point that is always fiery and energetic. And I do that by welcoming every customer in this way. So you can do this for yourself. I know that we're going to do the slide. The slides are going to be available to you to do that. And I am super excited and happy to meet with any one of you guys for a few minutes to kind of talk through that and help you think through your own if you would like. And if you would like other tips on how to do this, check out our podcast, and that will lead you through the process before you even need to go any farther. You guys, your brand is arguably your most valuable asset. Even as an exit strategy, it adds value to your business. So it's important for you to build it, protect it, grow it, and evolve it, especially when you're pivoting, you're changing services, you're doing things a little bit differently, or looking for the next opportunity. I am happy to answer any questions. I'll stop sharing my screen if I do this right. And so appreciate being here with you guys today. Did I make it on time, Mark and Robert?
Yes, you got plenty of time. We have a lot of time for questions. So those attending, if you have questions, pop them in the Q&A box or in the chat box, and we will have Jeffri-Lynn answer those. So we appreciate the presentation. And again, as Jeffrey mentioned, this presentation slides will be available on our website along with the recording of this session. So Jeffrey, if I'm a small business and I'm, social media marketing wasn't something I wanted to do previously, but I'm kind of seeing that now so many people are online because they have nothing else to do when they're stuck in their house. What would be some steps I can do to help develop that, my brand on the social media?
First and foremost, Robert, consistency. It really, you don't need to be posting, on your favorite platform, your favorite channel 3 times a day, but consistent messaging, consistent look and feel, and consistently reaching out to help people makes an incredible difference. We have a formula that it's our 4-part formula for that. And we say, give more, give again, and then offer. So you're giving information, you're educating people, you're providing entertainment, you're doing those things, only make an offer out there digitally every fourth time you post or fourth time you talk about something in your campaign. Because if you offer every time, you lose followers. If you just keep going, hey, I do this, hire me. Hey, hire me. Hey, come to my restaurant. But if you are offering information, talking about recipes, giving people an education of some kind, entertaining them, and then offering, that's the best formula. There are a couple of questions on the Q&A. Where can you listen to the podcast? Most any podcast catcher. We're most often listened to on iTunes and the Google, but I don't know if we're on Spotify yet. We should be, but I know you can get us on iTunes and Google. How do you know if you need to update your brand, and how often do I update it? Your first and foremost barometer for that is, how is your service experience? If your service experience is what you want it to be, but it doesn't match what you're putting out on your digital or your signage or any of those other 7 signature pieces, then you probably need to revisit your brand. If you have pivoted to a completely different approach to your business, you might want to look to evolving your brand. Here's the thing. You have to change your website every 1 to 3 years. You have to. You have to update it every month. You have to change it all the time. A good, solid brand based on your mission, vision, and values should last you 10 years or more without having to evolve much at all, because your brand should be the umbrella where you can offer products underneath it. If you have really solidified your brand, that should make it a whole lot easier for you. How do you determine which social media platform is best for your business? Or no, you do not need to be on all. It is so much better if you choose one and you're consistent than if you're trying to do 5 and you just can't make it happen. The key to being on the right social media platform is being where your dream client is. If that's your rock star and they're hanging out on Pinterest, Pinterest is where you need to be. Facebook still owns the market, so we usually, depending on your ideal target market, will probably have you there too. But you always want to look at where your customers are first. Tools to help small businesses engage with customers with COVID-19. Podcasts, videos, etc. People are being inundated with webinars, videos, online presence, asked to attend things because they have more time. It depends so much on what your offering is and what your mission is. If I was just driving this morning and I drove by 10 restaurants. One of them had a sign out that said, "We are open and welcoming you." I have no idea. This is in my neighborhood, you guys, and I don't even know who's open. Do I really want to go in and search on my phone for the coffee shop? I'm not my millennial kids. I want to, if I'm driving and I decide to stop for a cup of coffee, I want to know you're open. So it depends on your physical plant versus how you deliver your business. When you're thinking about all the signature touch points, how can you get that word out, right? Image, influence, impact, income. What is the impact you want? What's the best channel to do that? I think that's most important.
Jeffri-Lynn, we got a question in the chat, and it says, any suggestions for a representative of a larger corporation that must use corporate logos, cards, collateral, et cetera? How can they adapt and personalize it for themselves? So that kind of makes you think of maybe a franchisee that has that corporate requirement, but they're their own independent small business.
That is a great question. We have worked with realtors who obviously have, the RE/MAX umbrella brand, but they're trying to differentiate themselves to be the first one you call, or even loan brokers, people who work in certain banks. And what you'll see is people developing a personal brand. So even though they can say, yeah, I am X with Y, or you're a certain franchise and you have so much compliance, this can be especially true in financial services, insurance services, things like that. You can still develop a personal brand based on your own mission, vision, values, who you specifically want to serve, your specific niche versus the overall company that's doing everything for everyone. Because deep and narrow is the way to do it. If you try to be known for everything, you'll be known for nothing. And it seems counterintuitive. It's such a hard distinction to make, to say, you know what? I really just want to work with these kind of people, and I really just want to have this impact in the world. This is my why. This is my purpose. How do I make that come through? But sometimes you can do that with your own tagline. Sometimes you can do it with your own voice and tone, still using compliant language. There are different ways to look at doing that so that you can brand yourself above a product or below another brand and still have impact. If you look at hotel chains, for instance, let's talk the Canby in Biltmore, for instance. They are under the Autograph Collection by Marriott, but they have their own unique feel, their own way of dealing with people who come in, their own way of putting their message out there with a little bit of sass. That is doable in nearly every industry if you think through it really intentionally.
Excellent. Now, we've got another question in the Q&A. What channels have become popular to use for follow-up with clients as a result of COVID-19? We have emphasized on providing information through email or WhatsApp.
Right. Also, what's another one? Voxer has become really big for following up with that too. And there are so many other channels to use now, depending on how and where and what voice you need to respond to your clients. Here's one thing I've learned in all these years doing this. It's easier to double demand than it is create it. So if you already know people are reaching out to you through a hot bot, a chat box on your website, or Facebook Messenger, or Messenger, or any of those other little things that are TikTok, for goodness sake. If those are the way people are contacting you, that's the channel to consider first, because I can't tell you how many clients will leave Facebook messages in there, sitting there, oh, I don't check my Facebook message. But if that's where people are contacting you and asking for help, that is a warm lead every time. And what is marketing if it's not supporting and driving sales? It's useless. It is a tool to sell what you have to offer.
What would be a method or a strategy to help overcome, you'd almost say, a damaged brand image by maybe a few negative posts on social media, that whether they're founded or not, but how could a small business overcome those?
I think it's always important to answer. The thing is, you have to, especially because, you know, they're criticizing your ugly baby. You gave birth to this thing. So you really want to defend it. But you got to take a beat, take a breath, so that you are not misconstrued as being defensive in any way, shape, or manner. You are just addressing the complaint and either remedying it, explaining it, or making some difference offline for that customer, so then they come back online and correct their own review. That is the best and ultimate response, is making sure you address it head on, even if it's privately, even if you're just saying publicly, hey, I'm contacting you by PM, so that your other customers, your potential customers, understand you're not going to let that lie. That's part of your customer experience. Yes, there are trolls out there. and they will say a lot of horrible things, and sometimes you just have to ignore them because they embarrass themselves. But 9 times or more out of 10, it's best to address it in some way, shape, or form.
Okay. Again, we've got a number of people on the call. That please feel free to jump in the Q&A box and throw some questions in there. I'm going to reach out. Mark, do you have any questions for Jeffri-Lynn?
Hi, Jeffrey. Thank you so much for that session. Really helpful. I'm wondering, as it pertains to brand and as we've responded to kind of the current COVID climate, if people are changing or incorporating things from this crisis into their brand. So maybe leaning on the safety component as kind of our brand puts safety first, or are they kind of changing their messaging and the consistency about what they talk about or how they talk about it? Have you seen anything like that?
What I have seen, great question, Mark. What I've seen more often with our clients and in the industry as a whole is it's become more of a campaign topic. So when you have an established brand, the ways that you can really get kitschy if you're in the mood for it, or a little bit clever, or a little bit off-brand even, get creative with things, is to develop a campaign around it. Since this is such an uncertainty, and we don't know if this is a forever thing. Of course, safety is always going to be higher up in our mind, but it really is about distinction, not differentiation. So if I'm talking about safety and I'm talking about the things we're doing to keep you safe, those may not be the same things today that we're going to do 3 months or a year from now. So really, it would take a real consideration to infuse that back into a brand pillar or an overarching brand essence versus making it part of your current campaign, your current experience, customer experience, versus a forever thing. Because wearing masks today might be something else tomorrow. So we wouldn't want to change an overall brand. We might just want to change parts of the customer experience right now as it pertains to that.
Excellent. We have a few more questions that popped into the Q&A. As a small business, what do you recommend we do now for maximum impact with our brand?
Don't stop. Don't stop. Every single time there have been negative financial impact on small business in this country, those who have increased their visibility have gained market share. So even if the market was at 100 million and now it's 1 million, if you go from having 5% of that 100 million to 20% of 1 million, you're increasing your market share and you have impact. Impact leads to income. So the biggest thing is don't stop. Even if you're shifting to less expensive means, if you're going from paid Facebook advertising or Google search to organic use and trying other channels, don't stop. The most important thing is to keep going and even increase the amount that you're doing to take market share from those who are living in fear and not taking action. That is the most important piece.
So this next question actually ties really well into that. It says, any tips on incorporating your personal brand, i.e. personal Facebook page, personal Instagram account, etc., with your business brand, your business social media pages without coming off too salesy?
Yeah, salesy is a big thing. Like 6 weeks ago, all of a sudden people were like, I don't want to sell at all online. So what do? I don't want anybody to think I'm selling to them. I don't want to be like the car brands that are saying, yeah, we care about you, but now you need to buy a car. I don't want to come off that way. That has been the biggest, hardest thing. So most of the shift has been to content marketing. How can I educate you? How can I inform you? How can I help you? And then it becomes a sales conversation. If you create a buying environment based upon what people need and what they want, that double demand versus create it, then you don't come off as salesy because you really want to help and it comes through. That's that genuine authenticity, even vulnerability. Oh my gosh, my business is failing. I don't know what to do in COVID. What we have found in the last 6 weeks more than ever before is other small business owners understand you still need to keep your doors open. How many of us have been supporting our local restaurants with takeout, curbside pickup, all of that, because we understand they need the business to stay in business. And most of us, especially those you want to do business with, will understand that you still have to make money or your business becomes a hobby. And none of us really want that to happen. So if you are giving more and asking less, you create that buying environment so that when you're using that formula, you're giving more, you're giving again. When you make your offer, people aren't offended by that because they understand that's how you make a living. That's how you employ other people. That's how you're doing your part.
Is there a kind of a line that people should keep an eye on between their personal accounts and their business accounts on social media?
That's a great question. There are many people that are building a personal brand and are followed more personally than they are professionally. It depends on your brand, your mission, what you do for people, and who your audience is. Because if you have a TikTok account that shows you in one way, but your brand for your business is completely opposite of that and it's not congruent, that can be an issue. But if your brand is your personal brand, or if they are very closely aligned, which they should be, if you have built your brand based upon your own personal values or your leadership's values, then it should be pretty congruent and shouldn't be as much of an issue. When you think about the channel, though, you have to think about it differently. On LinkedIn, people don't follow businesses as much as they do the person because it's about that connection. What can this person do with me, for me, around me? So LinkedIn, always, your personal brand matters most. Other, Instagram, Facebook, things like that, those can be separate and you can keep it private. I know people who have 3 Facebook accounts because of different aspects of their lives and different people are following them in different ways. That can get tricky because then somebody tries to friend you on an account you don't want them to see you on, but they're your best client. How do I decide how that's going to happen? So really that takes intentional thought into how you want to integrate your personal brand with your business brand and where you're positioned in that business. If the business is run by you, for you, your core genius is what drives it, chances are it's very closely related. Whereas if you started the business and have stepped away from it for years, there's not that much of a connection, so you can make a different decision.
Excellent, thank you. We got a few minutes left. We just had another question pop in. Any unique advice for seasonal businesses that cannot operate this summer due to COVID-19 that have been in existence for over 75 years?
That is a tough one. I remember during the downturn, 2008, I was working with a media company that was really having a hard time. The bottom fell out of it. And at that time, we decided, you know what? Forget it. We are just going to start now working toward fourth quarter and next year. And we're going to start positioning ourselves for then and make a comeback like nobody's ever seen. And we had a record year the following year. Sometimes it's about cutting your losses. Sometimes it's about pivoting so that you can offer another product or service that is in demand right now, even temporarily, or that may incorporate a new vertical or a new horizontal for you. So that is less about brand and more about product and price, what you're offering. So you want to be certain that it's something that you could deliver immediately to be able to offset the issues that we're having right now with that seasonality. That is the scariest, craziest thing. I'm on the board of an organization that does events as our biggest fundraisers, and ours have been canceled as well. So we're thinking, okay, how can we shift fundraising online? How can we do this differently? How can we decide to do 2 of them in 1 month when we don't have the people to do that? How can we think through that? So thinking together on those things and coming back up with alternative solutions that are feasible and that, most importantly, cater to the demand you already are getting. That's the most important, because that if the demand's already there and you're just filling that demand, that's much, much easier than creating demand. Robert, there's a question from Rogelio Martinez. Can you please type the one you mentioned? I don't know what they're talking about though.
I'm not sure either.
Okay.
But got just a few minutes left. Jeffri-Lynn, will you just share your last final thoughts with the group? And
Absolutely. If any of you guys would like to just think together on these things, especially some of you who are talking about the seasonal issues or things like that, as part of this, I'm happy to spend 30 minutes, no charge, thinking with you about possible ways to pivot, to market yourselves differently, to work on your brand, that kind of thing, because so many of our clients are going through the same things right now that I really think we just all need to band together and help each other. So I'm happy to do that.
excellent, thank you. We appreciate everybody for being on this session. We very much appreciate Jeffri-Lynn and her insight into branding your business and ways you can impact your brand and grow it. Again, this session is recorded and will be posted on our website along with the slides from today. So thank you, and everybody have a great weekend. We look forward to seeing you on next week's bootcamp sessions. We have, again, great content prepared for next week. So thank you and have a great weekend.
Thanks so much, you guys.